Hot Springs Police Chief Chris Chapmond met with residents last Tuesday for a town hall meeting focusing on District 2. Participants filled out note cards asking a series of questions, including to what extent do you feel safe when you're outside alone during both the day and night? One person commented that they don't have concerns during the day, but there have been several shootings in their area in the last 18 months.
The number of shooting incidents is a very, very high priority with us.
Chapman said District 2 had over 200 shots fired calls since January 1st, more than any other district in the city.
This is one of those problems where we've had these shootings, but people don't want to talk to us. We've got to get past that. We've got to learn that for us to solve these problems, there has to be open dialogue and the communication.
The chief said since June, they've made efforts in areas around the city having problems with shots fired calls to address those issues. Results include 31 felony arrests and taking 11 guns off the street. When asked how often they saw suspicious activity in their neighborhood, the majority of respondents said sometimes. Complaints included drug transactions, theft, and vandalism.
These are consistent complaints across the city, okay? That they're not generic to this district. These are probably most of the same answers we would get from anywhere in town.
Chapman and Assistant Chief Billy Harviton encourage people to call if they see someone acting suspiciously, like checking door handles.
So be very specific when you call, as specific as you can be, and please do call.
But they reminded people, someone walking down the street has a right to do so, regardless of whether you think they look out of place.
If you just call in and say, hey, I got a guy walking around the neighborhood, he's dressed like this, and I don't know him, he don't live over here. He's got a right to walk anywhere he wants to and do anything he wants to in America as long as he's not breaking the law, right? It doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, it doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Residents also answered how often they had contact with law enforcement for non-emergencies in the last 12 months and how satisfied they were with those interactions.
8 people have had contact, so most of you have had contact with the police department. As a chief, what I like to see is when I turn the page and it says you're satisfied. That makes me feel good.
Only one person said they were very unsatisfied.
I will tell you this, I have an open door policy. Please come talk to me about that. Okay, if you're very unsatisfied about the service we rendered, then that's probably worthy of a conversation.
Chapman was also asked about handling mental health issues. According to the chief, they've got 10 officers trained in crisis intervention, and the goal is to have that training for all of them.
We have prioritized the mental health training, not only for people we deal with on the street, but also internally with what we have to deal with.
Chapman laid out his top priorities from a crime standpoint, with 2 issues tied at the top: violent crime and narcotics. He says narcotics are responsible for about 85% of other crimes.
So you've got to work the narcotics issue to address violent crime. You got to address violent crime to get some of the narcotics dealers off the street. So those 2 are really kind of a tie. The third is the property crimes. And again, those property crimes are driven a lot of times by the narcotics abuse.
Chapman said the conversation of defunding the police hasn't come up locally. He says he doesn't want to lose any funding, but he'd like to have conversations about potentially adding resources and partnerships with other community stakeholders.
The police department can't solve all of our issues. We have to take a holistic approach to mental health, to a lot of the crime issues, to education, to those different aspects. And so it's about building those relationships with the other community stakeholders to address some of these. Do we have some of those in place already? Absolutely. But can we improve upon them and bring additional resources to bear? That's what we should be doing.
Chapman spoke about some ways they've already addressed issues that come up during conversations about police reform.
One of the things that came out of the George Floyd issue that was just really obvious was those 3 officers standing there and they didn't do anything. Okay, that's called the duty to intervene. Okay, we have that policy.
He also says they banned chokeholds years ago and don't shoot at moving cars. Now we have additional audio from that town hall meeting going more in depth on the results from some of those questions, as well as topics such as staffing at the police department. You can listen to that by clicking on the video below.